After about 6 to 10 hours without food, most of the leftover carbohydrates from your previous meals will be used up for fuel. As a response, your pancreas will secrete glucagon, a hormone that makes your body release the stored glucose from your liver and your muscles. Your hunger hormones like ghrelin will rise as well, making you feel hungrier. After 10 hours, your pituitary gland will boost the production of human growth hormone, which will help delay muscle loss much longer than most people think. Your body temperature may also drop. After 16 hours, your body will become more reliant on burning fat for energy. At around this time, autophagy will kick in, which is a process where your body will recycle any junk it finds, such as damaged proteins, bacteria, or dysfunctional cells. 24 to 32 hours in, your body will run out of glycogen and become entirely reliant on its own fat stores for energy while reducing protein breakdown rates substantially to spare muscle tissue. About 48 hours in, you'll experience improvements in your mood, alertness, and tranquility.
This is some of the stuff we're working with people like Luigi Fontana from Washington University, where they're looking at changes in microbiome, changes in whole body composition, changes in these various exotic biomarkers, and what happens in short-term and long-term fasting. Nobody knows yet, because we're really the only people doing and monitoring long-term water-only fasting and its physiological effects. Right. So this is all virgin data and very exciting. But what we can see clinically is that when you induce changes with exercise or you induce changes with fasting, they're often the same changes. BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, is dramatically higher in rats that get their exercise, lower in those that don't. The ones that don't, much more vulnerable to Alzheimer's. Well, BDNF, it turns out, the precursor to that is beta-hydroxybutyric acid, which is the fatty acid that your brain is preferentially mobilizing during water-only fasting. BDNF goes up with water fasting just like it does in exercise. Glycogen-mobilizing enzymes go up in exercise just like they do in fasting. In fact, all of the biomarkers that we've been able to look at that are improved with exercise improve with fasting, which is weird because you think, well, wait a second. Wild. Exercise, you're out vigorously running around inducing all these changes. Fasting, you're sitting around, we don't even let you exercise much. You maybe could do a little yoga. How is it that they would do the same thing to the body? But when you think about it, exercise and fasting are both reversing the consequences of dietary excess.
Walk me through the experience of this journey that you see with the typical patient. I mean, you're demanding a lot of them. They're going through something they've never done before. Like, what is the, what is that like for that individual when they're on day 3, day 10, day 30?
Yeah, so the first few days of fasting are actually the most difficult because you're adapting off a glucose metabolism into a fat metabolism. So the brain is changing fuels from burning sugar to burning largely beta-hydroxybutyric acid, which comes from the ketone bodies from the fat breakdown. So there's an adjustment there. You're detoxing oftentimes a lot, although we've learned to minimize the effect of detoxification by getting people to eat a fruit, vegetable-only diet for a few days before we start fasting. That's made a huge difference. So they're not coming off caffeine addiction at the same moment that they're trying to adapt to the fast. They've already gotten that stuff out of their system. And that's actually the most difficult stuff, getting the cigarettes, the caffeine, the alcohol, all the meat, fish, fowl, eggs, dairy products, processed foods, all the host of chemicals that people are putting into their body with over-the-counter prescription medications. So we've gone through a wean-down process, and then we start fasting. And their mouth may coat up and taste like something crawled in there and died, and they may have some skin rashes or elimination. They may get mucus discharge. They may get some vivid dreams. They may have aches and pains, and they may have difficulties with all kinds of adaptive processes, but they go away. And then something else comes along, and then it goes away. And then it becomes very empowering because they realize that they're able to get through this process, that just because they had a headache doesn't mean they have to rush out and try to suppress those symptoms with a pill. It goes away. The body's able to heal itself. And then once you get into 4 or 5 days of fasting, the body's pretty well acclimated to the fasting. At this point, there's no hunger. People are going to cooking demonstrations. They're coming to lectures. They're going to the dining room to socialize with people. They're 5 days, 10 days into a fast. You think, oh my God, you haven't eaten for 10 days? No, I just enjoy being there.
That's crazy.
Not a problem. So then, depending on the patient, sometimes they start getting relief. Their pain, maybe for the first time in years, the pain that they've been suffering with is going away. And they may find that, some people who have these chronic debilitating problems start resolving. Things start falling off. Tumors start shrinking. They start getting excited, like, oh, maybe there's something to this idea of the body healing itself.
Do you ever do longer fasts, like 48 hours or 72 hours or week-long fasts?
Occasionally I do. But when I do it, maybe it's once a month, I'll go for 2 days. After 2 and actually even better if you go for 3 days without eating, it kicks in even greater longevity benefits. So there's a system called the autophagy system, which digests old and misfolded proteins in the body. And there's a natural cleansing that happens when you're hungry. Macroautophagy, its name is. But a good friend of mine, Anna Maria Cuervo at Albert Einstein College of Medicine, discovered a deep cleanse called the chaperone-mediated autophagy, which kicks in day 2, day 3, which really gets rid of the deep proteins. And what excites me is she just put out a big paper that said, if you trigger this process in an old mouse, it lives 35% longer.
Wow. Now, between 24 and 48 hours, this is when the real magic begins. This process of autophagy, the body turning on itself to become more efficient at waste elimination, repair, detoxification, and cellular division. You're literally cleaning your body out at a cellular level. 72 hours on a water fast, there's evidence that your own stem cells are starting to increase in number in blood circulation. Remember, your stem cells, which are the same age as the host, so they're as old as you are, they're held inside of your bone marrow. They're held inside of a lot of our long bones, in our hips, they're held in our femur, and they're released into the bloodstream. And when they enter the bloodstream, they hunt around for tissues that are damaged or inflamed. So after 72 hours, the evidence is conclusive that your stem cell levels begin to rise and circulate in your bloodstream, and your immune cells are becoming refreshed.
Please remember that Josh and Michael are not medical professionals. We strongly recommend consulting your doctor before attempting anything discussed in the class, particularly when it comes to matters of health.